Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Welcome back to the A to Z of emotional transformation. We're doing the letter O today, which is oppressed to optimistic, and I'm here with Khadija. Assalamu alaikum, Khadija.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So oppression is something that we've both experienced, and I think it's something that we both advocate against strongly. So hopefully this will be an interesting conversation.
Inshallah.
But I think that the message we're trying to give today is that you may be oppressed, but it is possible for life to transform from that oppressed state to not being oppressed anymore. And it's something that shifts inside of us. So maybe we'll start with, what's oppression?
What's oppression? The first thing that comes to my mind when you think about oppression is an injustice. Yeah. So oppression.
Lots of oppressions and injustices then.
Yeah. And I think oppression, I feel like what comes to my mind is it's both can be internally and externally. So we have like the external oppression where you have like a tyrant leader or unjust leader, or there'll be oppressive rules or laws and stuff like that. But I think one of the most, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid oppression, like He made it very clear, forbid oppression for Himself. But the other type of oppression, which I think is more innocent and is more that we don't really realize sometimes, is the oppression that we have internally. So the oppression that we have on ourselves, where we take those circumstances, those laws, or whatever those things that are happening outside of us, or say another person's oppression, their oppressive views, opinions, communication, and then we take it, internalize it, and then oppress ourselves and make it about ourselves, and then we create a story around it. And I think that is the oppression that so many of us innocently do to ourselves, but yet we completely don't even realize that we do it. And I was coaching a client this morning, and it's like the pattern of just self-blame. It becomes like a habit of self-blame, or to internalize a circumstance. So, for example, her anxiety was getting worse. And so her initial reaction was to self-blame, to tell herself off. And I was like, that's kind of an innocent oppression, because you've taken that child's behavior, made it personal and made it about you, and then oppressed yourself by putting yourself down, when that child's anxiety may have nothing to do with you, is actually nothing to do with you. And that child's behavior is an outcome of so many different things. So it's so interesting how, and she was like, yeah, I always do that to myself. And it was like, I think that's something I hear a lot in coaching, where there's repetitive cycles that sometimes even come from childhood, where you just be repeating something over and over to yourself. And it's in a form of oppressing yourself, because it's actually not true.
Yeah. And what I have found is, if we nail that internalized oppression, the other oppressions don't affect us, or we don't suffer them. So the core actually is that internal shift, isn't it?
Yeah, so true.
Because in fact, once you have that internal shift, the people who potentially oppressed you before, it's not just that you won't be oppressed by them anymore. They can also actually seem to tell that we won't be and don't bother anymore, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, because it's sometimes their need to control. And so when they realize that is not impacting, some humans will start to try and control even more. So they'll escalate their oppression, or escalate their comments, or their which is coming from that place of insecurity. It's coming from a place where they're feeling insecure in some way. Or they realize that you're not buying into their story anymore. And so it's just, it naturally drops. And I think when we can act on the belief that we know ourself, and I think this is a big aspect of internalized oppression, the more your self-awareness, the more you increase in self-awareness, the more you know yourself better. And I mean, even Qayyim talked about that. He talks about the station of awareness, the station of awakening. As a person, when Allah SWT loves someone, He draws them closer to Him, like He draws them with more conscious awareness of themselves, or their understanding, the increase in their understanding of the perception of the world or themselves. that allows you, gives you that insight as Allah gives you more insights and more awareness, and you become more consciously aware. You realize so many times other people's need to oppress in whatever way that will look like. It's not about you in the end of the day. Even though it looks like you can't create someone else's reaction. You can't create someone else's feelings. Many people will say oh, you guilted me, or you made me angry, or you upset me. In actual fact, that's the illusion, because we can't create those feelings in another human being. And so when you let go of that, it's like you're not oppressing yourself because, oh, I made him or her feel that way, because it's actually not within your realm. It's not within your ability to do that. Of course, I'm not talking about abuse here, but I'm talking about in that emotional reactions that other people have. You can't have the ability to create that within them. That's coming from their thought. We experience life moment to moment through their thought. So it just takes some load off, which I think so many people get oppressed themselves by worrying about what will other people think, or what will be other people's reaction to what I'm doing. And in actual fact, you are not responsible or have no ability to control how other people think and feel of you.
Yeah. And their thinking and feeling of us could change from moment to moment anyway. And so from one moment to the next, we could be the good guy or the bad guy. So it doesn't take much. But I think that one of the key things that might be helpful for people listening is describing what it's like to be in that oppressed state. So we're talking about an oppressed state now, and we're not necessarily talking about external oppression. We're talking about we're in a sense of oppression. And really what comes to mind is you feel defeated. You feel defeated. That it's very dark and heavy, like there's no way out.
Yeah.
And so that's where we become the victim of whatever's going on. Not that we are a victim, but that we place ourselves as the victim of the circumstances or the person or whatever it is that's going on. And in some ways feel then justified to have the feelings that we're having, because of course you would have those feelings under this circumstance, because we've placed ourselves as the victim of the circumstance. Whereas what you're talking about, when you see that, well, hang on a minute, it isn't about me. Whatever is going on is either, if something's happening, it's the qadr of Allah, or if someone is having some emotional reaction, that's their thought moment. It's not personal to me. Then you stop being the victim of it. And that's when you stop being defeated, and that's when the optimism kicks in, because there becomes opportunity to experience it differently, but there also becomes opportunity to be part of the solution as well. And so that's a huge shift, isn't it? Such a huge shift in experience.
What you just said there about you have the opportunity, basically you have the choice. Allah's given us the akal, the choice to make a different response to where you have reacted before. That opportunity to have that choice to decide to reframe it or see it differently, instead of falling into that rabbit hole of that kind of victim thinking, which you're talking about, that changes your emotional state so much. And you have that ability within yourself to do that, that you can be in a situation that, someone could be oppressive, but you are still staying in your inner calm and your inner wisdom and your inner intuition. I'm not buying into your story. I know you're struggling right here, or whatever's going on for you, but I don't need to carry that weight. I don't need to take on that and internalize that. And I think that is so powerful, because we are already innately resilient. And I think this is something, subhanAllah, was a friend had sent me a coach's kind of outline of her coaching, and she said something about I will give you clarity and I will empower you. And I said back to her, and I said, but this is very disempowering, because we've already got clarity and we already have resilience. No one has to do that for you. The only reason you come to, you get coaching, for example, is to unpack what's going on for you, so you can come back to your wisdom again, back to your intuition, and then move forward. And, subhanAllah, Allah's given us other human beings to help us, mentor us, and make those mashura in those times when you're a bit of a stuck thinking and things like that. And the thing is, when you truly understand that you already are innately resilient, even when other people are acting in a way that's not in the best manner, or they're being oppressive, or you're in a situation that is oppressive, you can come back to knowing, that deeper knowing, that intuitively, no one can break you, no one can do anything, no one can harm you in any way. Actually reminds me of Ibn Qayyim, when he says, that's a saying, like, be certain no one can break you. Like, no one has that ability. Like, your victory is within yourself, and to basically stand up for yourself. Like, be your best friend. Be your carry on in life. Like, take that next step and you'll be okay, type thing. And that's also part of tawakkul, is that when you truly know that Allah is sufficient and Allah is the best to rely on and help you through any situation, then you actually see that there's clear goodness in the test that I'm going through. All this, any kind of the oppression that we're going through, because any kind of test can easily push us to a place where we start to have that oppressive thinking, or they turn into kind of victim thinking and start spiraling down and thinking, oh, why me? And, who's me? And, it never happened to her, never happened to him, and in the comparisons and all this, just goes into it until next thing is next level.
What I call that is where we start collecting the data. So, we've decided we're the victim, and then we go collecting all the data to prove it.
Right? Yeah. And then the repercussions that will show up in behavior, self-abandonment or self-doubt, or depression, or just feeling procrastinating or stuck. But when you can actually just know that no one can give you victory except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can help you except helping yourself first and foremost, and say, I don't need to buy into that. I understand I'm struggling right now, or I'm feeling these feelings and that, and this shall pass, and I can rise up again, step forward and move forward. And I think that's really part of the ebbs and flows of life. We're always there will be tests that will come. There will always be struggles. There will always be, it's so funny. Someone said to me this week, all the couples are happy. Like, when you see every couple, they're happy, but we're unhappy. And it's like, yeah, but you don't know what's on the outer. You have no idea. And subhanAllah, when you're in, many women and men, when they're in oppressive situations, look very happy. They look very, their physical appearance does not show what's going on in an internal state. And so I think that what you talked about, that victim thinking, and having the choice, that you have the choice to decide today, I am not going to buy into this, or I am stepping forward. I'm letting this flow, and being okay, and knowing you are okay without needing to do something. I think that's a really important part of not oppressing yourself.
So it all comes down to the way we're thinking about it, which reminds me of the Ibn Sina quote that we had recently in our Telegram, which was, your thoughts can be your disease or your cure, or words to that effect anyway.
It's always mindset, isn't it? SubhanAllah. It's always the thinking of it.
I think mindset, if you think about what setting is actually the problem. It's actually the mind unsetting.
Yes. Getting unstuck.
It's the mind unsetting. Yeah. And I think what you're talking about before about reaching out for help, the way I look at it is like untangling thoughts, that what our job is to help someone untangle their thoughts, because we just get so tangled in our thoughts. We start meshing everything together, and then we can't see clearly what's what, and it's just about listening and helping them untangle all their stories and separate them. And as you were talking, then I was thinking about the untangling. I thought, it's kind of like the emotional hair salon, isn't it? Where they come along for a thought do.
Then they feel a lot better afterwards.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of trimming, and we'll trim away some stories and my wave.
Unpack some limiting beliefs and some borrowed stories and labels from other people. And what comes to my mind too, Catherine, about when you feel you're in an oppressed state, or you're feeling really stuck, or you're feeling the gravity of the overwhelm, and it's becoming so oppressive. A lot of the time, human nature is to retreat and to kind of like hide and run away or go missing in action, basically. And the thing is, our deen, talks is a lot about seeking help when you need help, or not dismissing your own needs when you have that. And I think this is so important in the realm, especially as a mother, where a lot of the time when those feelings are getting overwhelmed, is about not dismissing your needs or your need to seek help, or
Mm.
say, you know what, I just need someone to listen to me or to reach out. That is actually strength. That you could actually say, you know what, I think I'm struggling with this right now. I'm having a lot of stuck thinking, or I'm in this place where I've taken the circumstances and experiences and really create a lot of overwhelm or upset or whatever that may be. And I'm innocently oppressing myself. So now I need someone to kind of just unpack this with me, or untangle this with me. I think this is something that if people did this more often, how much more we restore back to our more intuitive, calmer state instead of holding on to, like, some people will stay angry about something for 3 weeks, or they'll stay upset or overwhelmed constantly. And if you can reach out and seek that and unpack that, it's so much relief comes, because it's like, okay, it's such a human part of nature. Human nature is to connect to others, to unpack what's going on. And no one's perfect. We're all got crazy thinking and crazy and stories and circumstances and tests that sometimes are very crushing at times. But when we're able to just do that, what I have found so much for myself personally and in coaching, usually there's a sense of relief at the end.
Oh, definitely. And we all reach out to each other when we're getting tangled thinking. So it's not about ever getting to a place where you've nailed it and you don't need help. There is always going to be times when it's like, I can't see clearly. I've got crazy thinking going on. And the key thing is who you reach out to. And so, we reach out to each other because we know that we understand each other. And I think the key thing in terms of reaching out to each other is that we know and understand that everybody already has well-being inside them, so we don't need to fix anything, so we don't try to listen and help untangle things. If you go to the wrong person, if they don't have that belief and understanding, they may try to fix it and advise and everything like that, and a person may just get even more tangled in their thinking, because now, instead of coming back to that intuitive state that you were talking about, they've just gone into more confusion because they're taking on somebody else's opinions on things instead of coming back to the innate solution that's already within them through Allah's guidance.
I think that makes the hugest difference in having an understanding of the inside out paradigm. When you're going to a coach that has that understanding, it's a completely different experience, because that person knows that you're already innately resilient. You're just stuck by some thoughts that have gotten in the way at that moment, and to not go into a role of labeling or fixing. And I've seen this so many times where a client will come to me, or someone will come to me who's been coached before, and they're fixated on a label or some comment that the past coach has kind of told them, you're this, you're that, and so they get stuck in that. And people do that with their children a lot too, in the labels that their child's been assigned. So they get really stuck and frustrated or overwhelmed by that label. And when you can see the person without the labels, or you can see this person separate to their behavior, their behavior is not always an indicator of what is who they are as a person. And I think this I suppose is a difference in that the past, if you hold, this is a big difference in when people hold on to a past label or story that they keep repeating to themselves, how that can create a perception that will end up internalizing and hurting yourself, because you're stuck in the past. And the past is only kept alive. The past only contaminates the now if we keep it alive through thought.
Yeah. And what just came to me listening to as you said that is labels are oppressive.
Definitely. And I would even say unrealistic expectations. Yeah.
We could go on for hours about this, because it's like one of our favorite topics, isn't it?
I know. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, to be able to unpack it a little bit.
Jazakallah khair, Khadija. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you about depression. And one of our favorite topics, as I said. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.